What's going on, everybody? This is Andrew. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for watching. Basically, what I want to do is I want to talk about, basically, just bring up a rhetorical question about the people who are poor or living in poverty and the collapse. And basically, I just want to ask a question and see how many people will answer this. So here's the question. What's going to happen to poor people? What's going to happen to people living in poverty after the collapse? Are we going to see poor people rounded up by the government and put into encampments? Into, let's say, FEMA camps? Because we've had concentration camps here in America before. Not many people know this. During World War II, the Japanese were put in camps because they were considered enemy combatants, so they were put in concentration camps and things like that. They were, Japanese Americans. So it's happened before. America's done it before. So this is a serious question for serious-minded people. Where are poor people going to go after the collapse of the financial system? I mean, we've already had that 2008 collapse, but what about the next collapse? What happens when the major bubbles, the real estate bubble goes? What about the student loan bubble goes? What about the consumer bubble goes? Sorry, my iPod's doing a little dance here. The consumer bubble goes. What about, what else? Everything else goes. Because really, when you look at this actually I remember one, the entertainment bubble. Not very many people talk about this, but I believe we have an entertainment bubble, and we have a military-industrial complex bubble, where we have spent so much money on both bubbles since 2008. Well, particularly, between 2001 and 2003, when we went into the war between Afghanistan and Iraq. We continue to spend that kind of money now, more so, directing our funds to developing drones and, increasing our drone capabilities. And we're doing that, but let's look at the entertainment section for a second. Now, since 2008, and I don't have exact figures of this, I don't have exact numbers, so this is just pure commentary, but since 2008, we've seen an incredible amount of attendance in professional sports, particularly in the major metropolitan areas, the Boston, New York areas, people out on the West Coast. I mean, of course, it depends on what sport you're talking about, but not just sports in general, but just entertainment in general, movies, things like that. Although movies maybe is a pretty bad example of this, because not very many people are going to movies these days, but you sort of have, or maybe it's not really entertainment that's in the bubble, maybe it's just the sports industry is in the bubble, which I can agree with, but just entertainment overall, and you got the military-industrial complex overall is in the bubble. What happens when those bubbles burst, including the student debt bubble, the real estate bubble, and some of the other bubbles I had just named off my fingers? Alright, so what happens to poor people after those bubbles burst? And I don't know. I just want to bring that question to the forefront and see how many people comment on my page and see how many people dislike, or see how many people tell me that I'm a nut job, I'm just conspiracy theorist, and I need to be thrown off of YouTube. And maybe that's the case, but really I just want to know what's going to happen to poor people. Because I noticed today, I went for a job, and I need to be very careful here, but I went for a job for a temp or a staffing agency, And I noticed I was required to not just fill out my W-2 form, but I was required to fill out all these different forms regarding tax exemptions, forms that include tax breaks for the type of welfare that I get, for how many children that I have. And I'm completely single, no children, so obviously none of that really applied to me. But of course I'm not a veteran either, but so there was a lot of information I had to fill out. If I had been a veteran, I would have still had to fill out. And furthermore, I also had to fill out a separate form basically saying or stating that I am a white Caucasian male, which is kind of bizarre because this job only pays $10 an hour, and it's only for 9 months out of the year. But it's just interesting because you have to fill out so many of these different forms, and in several of these different forms you have to put your social security number in there. Not only that, you also have when on your W-2 form you talk about how many people are dependent upon you, and which is reasonable, I guess, but it's just, it feels like the amount of information you have to give them is over the top, and it makes me wonder and makes me very concerned about what they're going to do with this information. And furthermore, where is that information going to go to? If that information is going to go to the government, I don't know. Although I do have my ideas, I do have my opinions, but I'm going to keep it in wraps for now. But if it's true and that information does go to the government, where in the government does it go to? Of course, the IRS being one of them. But how is that information going to be used? How is that information, if I were to make under $65,000 a year, how is that going to be relevant for when everything collapses and we have no economy anymore, and we pretty much are thrown into a barter system? Now, I'm not saying we're going to have a complete calamity and that's going to happen, like a complete collapse, but what if we were to have a complete collapse, or if we had a collapse significant enough for it to really hinder everybody's ability to live their day-to-day lives normally, then what will the government do to poor people? What will the government do to people who are in the middle class or formerly in the middle class? Because we know that there's an extreme amount of discrimination, not only against poor people and people who are living paycheck by paycheck, but there's an extreme amount of discrimination against middle class people, against middle class people even more so than poor people, because middle class people for a lot longer now have been much more self-sufficient than poorer people who do have to rely on government subsidies in order to survive. So it's just a rhetorical question. Definitely please comment. Please like, dislike, but I really do want to hear some comments on this. I think this is a very important topic. I think it's a discussion we all need to have, because I believe there is something in the works that we don't know about, that there is a conspiracy happening behind closed doors where people are going to be put in a position where you're sort of, you're either going to go in the left line and the right line, and the left line is where you're completely eliminated, the right line is where you're a complete debt slavery, and I don't know if we're going down that road, but it feels like we are. It really does feel like we're Nazi Germany right now, and basically it won't be the Jews who would be discriminated against, or it won't be blacks who are discriminated against. It'll pretty much be everybody who's in this, who's either in the middle class or the people who are poor. But this video is kind of going long, but please comment, please rate, please subscribe. I would really appreciate it, because this video needs to go out to as many people as it can. in addition to that, we all really need to have this discussion and get this topic out there. So thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Take care. And I hope everyone has a great night tonight and have a great day tomorrow. So take care and God bless. Bye.